following the Vikings. It's week 5, I think. They're coming after a bye. And that just feels like the right spot in the season to go from a Sam Darnold-led team to a J.J. McCarthy experience. And I think the smartness of that is because you will, I presume, have a demand from your fan base, from the league, to see McCarthy. As opposed to foisting him from week 1 onto a fan base, you have them thirsting for him, and I think it's set up for him to actually win in that way.
Now I'm just picturing the Vikings holding an open convention at their headquarters. This analogy has taken me in some
totally
very real directions.
Doable.
It's a little convoluted, but I tend to agree. I also agree with your timeline. I just looked at the Vikings schedule. First few games are pretty rough. They open against the Giants, who are not a very good football team, but they have a very scary pass rush.
Yes.
Then they face San Francisco and Houston, who I think have amongst the best 4-man rushes in the entire NFL. Now, normally, Pablo, I actually am an advocate of rookie quarterbacks playing quickly. We just saw C.J. Stroud do that with great success, obviously. But while the Vikings would seem to be an excellent spot for a quarterback to do that, given all of the talent they have at wide receiver, obviously Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, Kevin O'Connell's an excellent play caller, I actually think patience with McCarthy might be the right approach. Because while he is very talented, he's also very raw. He was not asked to drop back and pass the Michigan football team's way out of games. He only threw 34 passes his last season in the fourth quarter total. This Vikings offense was extremely pass-heavy last year. They did not have a good run game. So it would be wise, I think, for things to get back on track with Aaron Jones, who they added, before you insert McCarthy into the lineup.
But I also want to decode the other sort of political stakes here, is that Kevin O'Connell, the front office is all in now on J.J. McCarthy, right? They looked around. They tried to trade for Drake May. All of these picks, that deal didn't happen. They obviously needed to move on from Kirk Cousins, who they didn't want to pay all that money because of the injury. And so J.J. McCarthy is their guy. And it just seems to me like if you're... So I say that all to say, Mina, it feels like the incentives are aligned. Everybody wants J.J. McCarthy to be the best version of himself. And even when people are basically controlling the quarterback for their own self-interest, it feels like the self-interest might also be the team's self-interest. That's how I have sort of rationalized it in my brain. They're all sort of on the same page here with this guy.
Is Kevin O'Connell the Speaker of the House in this, or is he the majority leader? I'm having a little trouble following.
All I know is that he did not fall out of a coconut tree. But I want to move on to the future of the Golden State Warriors, Mina. Because owner Joe Lacob said Wednesday that the team feels like it has a future all-star in Brandon Pajemski, but the Warriors are also reportedly interested in trading for Lauri Markkanen, and the Jazz, of course. And Steve Kerr has said that only Steph Curry is untradeable. So does Joe Lacob's praise make you think that the Warriors are committed to keeping Pajemski or trying to build his trade value?
I love this question because we're talking about Pajemski, a role player, a very good one, but we're not really talking about him, right? We're talking about the Warriors, the state of the Warriors, how they view themselves, whether they were so burnt from that 2-track timeline where they tried to go young and old at the same time and it obviously failed, that they'd be scared from trying it again or ultra committed towards building around Steph to win now. I tend to think it's the latter, because while I believe them when they say they're high on Pajemski, and there's a number of reasons to be, right? He's a freaky rebounder at his side. He draws size. He draws a lot of charges. The advanced numbers love him. He's got an extremely valuable rookie contract, especially given the way the cap is now. He is really their only tradable asset. And if they want to go out and get Lowry, and it seems like they would have to if they want to win now with Steph, I feel like he'd be the guy who has to go.
Yeah, this seems like classic posturing to me. I agree. They love this kid. They've tried to get players like this kid and have swung and missed a lot. He's like one of the wisest draft selections they've had in this, again, this 2-track timeline that has been disastrous. But I also think that it's simple because Steph Curry is also getting old. And so as much as those 3 years of cost control for Pajemski are incredibly valuable, because Steph Curry is also getting old. And so as much as those 3 years of cost control for Pajemski are incredibly valuable, it's actually less valuable to the Warriors than they want to admit. And so Lauri Markkanen, who is on an expiring deal, he has one more year with the Jazz, a guy who can be yet another shooter, is, I think, He's certainly more ready to play at the all-star level than Podziemski this year, even if he's not the same player at all. Podziemski's an excellent rebounder at 6'4". I just think that they want Markkanen because they need to contend right now, and so they're going to tell you how much they love their 6'4" adult son. It just seems like posturing to get the value up.
I do believe his value, though, is true with what they're saying, especially not just because of his abilities, Pablo, but because of that contract. Teams are so afraid of that second apron now. Yeah, that you look at a player like him who's so cheap, and it's not just that he's good. His contract makes him more valuable than I think it would have otherwise in years past.
Yeah, and if you look at the market right now, Mikal Bridges, what he got, right? Like, reportedly, what is being demanded for Lauri Markkanen, it's not just a Brandon Podziemski, it's also like 3 first-rounders plus pick swaps plus everything else. And the Warriors are saying, no, this kid alone is worth it. This kid alone is all you need, which I don't believe adds up in the marketplace that you just described. But I want to take a break because coming up, what's the word for Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese taking the court as teammates tomorrow?
And what kind of pressure is Yankees manager Aaron Boone facing in the season's second half?
All right, Nina and I have both written millions of words in our careers, I think, but we can both agree that mine are just a tad superior. So what's first?
It will be blank to see Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese as teammates in tomorrow's WNBA All-Star Game.
Thrilling. It's going to be thrilling, Pablo, not just because I'm a sucker for an enemies to allies storyline. We both watch way too much X-Men not to love that trope. Not going to say who's Magneto in this analogy, but because I think this game is going to be extremely competitive and fun. Certainly more competitive and fun than any other All-Star game in any other sport. Because Pablo, and I think you'll agree with me here, Reese and Clark, in addition to several other players on Team WNBA, notably Arike Ogunbowale, have a case to be on the Olympic team. They want to beat them. And I think the Olympic team does not want to lose to these young stars who are getting so much attention. So I'm excited to watch them play together. I think they actually are two players who pair really well together on the court. And I'm excited to see both of them try desperately to win.
How dare you rob us of an aggregated Mina Kimes says Magneto is Angel Reese headline? That would have really done a lot for the virality of today's program.
You don't know that that's who I would have chosen.
Right. So listen, I say that this is lucrative because of everything we're alluding to, because there's actual tension here, because there are hives involved here, because there's been a debate about which one of them deserves Rookie of the Year. All of that is so. But it's extra lucrative to me because I have this vision for how we can heal. Okay, we live in a fractured world. We don't get along. We don't agree about anything. If extra lucrative to me because I have this vision for how we can heal. Okay, we live in a fractured world. We don't get along. We don't agree about anything. If Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark enjoyed this experience enough to film a commercial together, Mina.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if they did that. I am not kidding when I believe that would heal things. I think people would actually be blown away. It's the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird dynamic made real. It was a commercial. It was capitalism. But we were so desperate that it actually made a difference. And I think that could be also the case here. Which is because the stakes of this are so uncompromising. As a Yankee fan who that I like the Yankees. I don't have them tattooed on my body anywhere, but I'm a fan since childhood. My word for this is Asian American. It's going to be a real Asian American second half for Aaron Boone. And I say that not just because his shortstop is part Filipino, Anthony Volpe, shout out to him. It's because the stakes of this are so uncompromising. As a Yankee fan who just experienced the worst season in 31 years last season, which they did not make the playoffs, if you give me a B+, I'm giving you the full assurance that you failed. I'm going to turn into my own immigrant parents. We need a World Series. This is very clear to me. It's a binary proposition. There is no curve. It is World Series or bust in a very sincere way. Asian American.
Yeah, even making it to the World Series and not winning would be like being the salutatorian of Major League Baseball, or as my Korean mom calls it, something you don't put on your resume because no one cares. I do agree with you, and I'm worried, frankly, Pablo, because this team, which got off to an unbelievably hot start, of course, has been struggling for a litany of reasons. The biggest one probably being starting pitching. The first 70 games, they had an ERA, their starting pitchers did, of 2.7. Last 28, worst in baseball, over 6. And the hitting, including, unfortunately, your man's Volpe, has not been excellent outside of the stars. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees spend big to try to compensate for some of those issues, in large part because of the pressure that you and I are, in addition to their entire fan base, are putting on them.
Well, hold on, Mina. As somebody who obviously aced the verbal part of the SAT, what's your word? We're playing What's the Word?
Oh, make or break is my word.
There it is. Very good.
It's 3
That's
words.
the final word. I think
2.
you know who won that one as a result of that last part. But
Not competition.
a break, and still to come, another difficult day at the British Open for Tiger Woods.
And the U.S. men's soccer team takes a tumble in the world rankings. Need better words.
You know, the salutatorian thing, as the salutatorian of my middle school, it cuts to the core of me.
Yeah.
It just cuts to the core of my inferiority complex.
I want to be clear. I was not the salutatorian. I was.
Happy time, people. A happy 102nd birthday, Rachel Robinson. Earlier this season, the widow of Jackie Robinson marked baseball's day in his honor by making an appearance at the Met City Field. Son David said that his mom is doing fantastic and celebrated what he called her legacy of perseverance. Rachel Robinson had met Jackie when they were both enrolled at UCLA, and they married in 1946. The year before, Jackie ended racial segregation in baseball with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And following his death in 1972, Rachel founded the Jackie Robinson Foundation, a nonprofit that provides educational and leadership opportunities for minority students.
First of all, 102nd birthday is not a phrase you hear a lot on this show or anywhere. That in itself is incredible, but especially incredible when we're talking about a woman like Rachel Robinson. Everything you know about Jackie's story, everything he went through, she was right there with him and has been such a tireless advocate, not only for his legacy, his foundation, but also equality in and outside of the sport of baseball.
Absolutely. The most shocking part so far is that simply this show has sounded older in some ways than the show as normally hosted. But we move on to a happy anniversary to Manny Ramirez, from the sublime to the ridiculous. On this day 19 years ago, the Red Sox left fielder revealed that the reason he regularly ducked through a door in the Green Monster was to relieve himself into a cup. Ironically, relieving himself into a cup is probably what led to 2 positive PED tests. The second one prompting Manny to retire rather than sit for 100 games. And earlier this week, Manny's son Lucas was selected by the Los Angeles Angels in the 17th round of the Major League Baseball draft. And 2 rounds later, Mina, the Red Sox selected D'Angelo Ortiz, you guessed it, the son of Manny's Hall of Fame teammate, David Ortiz.
So when Manny does that at work, it's just Manny being Manny. When I do it, it's an HR violation. No, I remember this story very vividly because it happened, the suspension, and the suspension he declined to accept happened during the Barry Bonds trial. 2 guys whose legacies obviously went in very different directions because of it. Kind of cool to see them come together in this way with their sons now.
Yeah, but I will say, I think my favorite Manny Ramirez story might be how he was allegedly flushing like cloth napkins down the toilet at baseball stadiums. Again, allegedly, but still.
I don't do that.
Yeah, allegedly. Happy trails to Tiger Woods at the British Open. Woods missed the cut at Royal Troon after following yesterday's 79 with a 77. Plus 14 happens to be Tiger's worst 2-round score versus par ever at the British Open. And so Colin Montgomery is looking good after telling the Times of London recently, quote, "There is a time for all sportsmen to say goodbye, but it is very difficult to tell Tiger it's time to go. Obviously, he still feels he can win. We are more realistic," end quote. Tiger then responded, quote, "Well, as a past champion, I'm exempt until I'm 60. Colin's not," end quote. So, in your face. Montgomery later said that he was taken out of context, Mina. So, there's that.
I don't know why we're even talking about Tiger's poor performance, which was kind of accepted. Rory McIlroy finished plus 13. He barely beat him, and he had much higher expectations coming into this. We should be talking about that performance.
Yes, unlike Rory, we have no errors today. We're running out of show as well, so let's go to the big finish. Kevin Durant practiced for Team USA and is questionable to debut against South Sudan tomorrow. Is that significant?
Yeah, I think we can beat South Sudan if we have Kevin Durant in the lineup. Grizzlies center Zach Edey left last night's Summer League game after twisting an ankle. Is it a cause for concern?
Yes, because he's the biggest Asian I've seen this side of Yao Ming. Love that guy. Concern. The U.S. men's soccer team fell 5 spots to number 16 in FIFA's latest world rankings. Does that seem fair?
Considering they don't have a coach, yes, I think they're better than that. But right now, I don't blame anyone who's skeptical. The Cubs and Dodgers will open next season with a 2-game series in Tokyo. Make sense?
Yes, Shohei Ohtani might be pitching, starting the season in Tokyo. Of course it makes sense. The last one, your Mariners host 3 against the second-place Astros. Are you feeling positive?
No. We can't hit our way out of a paper bag. It's been rough, Pablo.
Yeah, we are out of time. Thank you for watching. I am Pablo Torre. My podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out, not as rough, so try it out.
And I'm Nina Kimes.